it.
Yes. How sweet.
Yeah, we're in a sunny Wimbledon today. It's really lovely and sunny.
Oh, wow. Someday I've got to get there. You know, I was supposed to obviously be there, I think now actually, and do that little Ireland, Scotland, London journey. And so I would have seen you at the Bainbridge Cup, like probably most of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But next year.
Next year.
That's why we're all here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. In fact, that was one of my questions. It says, "Are you going to travel?" And my answer is yes.
There we go. Tuomo has joined us now.
Oh, finally, the party can start.
Yeah, and we have Cyril as well from France.
Yeah. Welcome, Cyril.
Hello, Cyril. Ça va?
Welcome everybody.
Oh, yay!
Welcome to you.
I love it.
Girl. Hi, Elena, too.
And
You made it, Cyril.
Hello.
We're very glad that Elaine is with us too.
Yes. Yes. No, we've got a nice mix of regulars and new people here today, so it's wonderful.
Nice, nice. So I do have to do my shout out since Tuomo's here. I'm thanking him for asking me. And so we were Facebook messaging, you know, he says, okay, so Karen's going to have the Zoom call, you know, she'll send you the link. And I said, sweet, can I share this information? And he says, no, you don't make it public because we can only fit so many. So it was cute last night. On my blog subscribers, I said, and some of you might have saw, I said, so I got a couple things going. One is in less than 24 hours, I'm doing this, you know, international Zoom call, but you can't join unless you're out of the US and you have to email me and then I'll give you the code. So I think I got like 10 or 15 last night and I sent it to him. So I didn't want to overwhelm because I wanted just, you know, to make sure to talk with you guys. So it was kind of funny because someone texted me like, Jennifer, you can't fill it all up. And I'm like, no, I'm not filling it up.
We've got room, don't you worry.
Yeah. So
Well,
anyway.
like I told you, Jennifer, I was impressed that you're the first one that has marketed yourself. So that was cool. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. I was just thinking of it sort of like just sharing, right? Because I actually don't do lots of these, you know, because traveling or whatever. And so I thought, well, if I'm doing it, I might as well share it. And as you all know, there's just so much pickleball internationally and all over. It's just like it's like such a small world when we like get on this and we see each other, we know, and it's like, can't wait to get back to those, you know, international tournaments so we can all, you know, play and have our dinner and toast and, you know, like we did.
Yeah, those were the days. So Tuomo, are you going to play Question Master with Jennifer?
Actually not. I forwarded all the questions you guys sent me, and she's got the list. And I kind of said that Jennifer is free to answer any questions. So if you can read them one by one and then answer, and probably people will then ask more while you are talking, and this is the way it goes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've made you
That's
center
okay.
stage now, Jennifer.
I actually prefer the little box to the side.
Do you? Okay then, all right.
All right, well, I'm looking at my questions, so let's just start. It says, who did she write the book with? Okay, so let's, we'll talk quick on book. So, and I only see like 5 people. Is that just because 5 people are on video?
No, you turn on the gallery view and you can see about 5.
If you go to gallery at the top.
Oh, look at all the people.
You still won't see everyone. There's a little arrow to the right-hand side. If you press on that, you get to see the other people.
Oh my gosh, I see. I'm so glad you guys put where you're from because I kind of forget where you all are and you're everywhere. Anyway, cool. Well, basically, thanks for tuning in. go through the questions, but I have some funny stuff. But let's for Tuomo's questions. So this is the book. You guys probably know. So my mom and I wrote it, and the scoop. Actually, wave if you've seen the book or read the book. Oh my gosh, I love it. Love it. Sweet. So so basically it's been 3 or 4 years now, but my mom, Bev Youngren, she was one of the first USAPA ambassadors way back when, right? So she was like all ambassadors, like you guys are ambassadors, right? Promoting the sport wherever you go, volunteering. So she in the early days in 2000, late 1995-ish, she got to know a lot of like Fran Meyer, who's also a Hall of Famer, is on here. Wave, Fran. There she is. So she'd been around pickleball a long time, so she knew a lot of these pioneers. So when I got into it, I'm about 11 years now. I've been playing and competing. Then I got to meet all those people. So we had that connection, and then also being I was the first pickleball sponsored player through Pickleball Inc., who's the people that made the Durafast 40, you know, and the legacy paddles and all that. So they're out of Seattle. So I was a sponsored player for them, and I helped them do their marketing, which means I had to fly up to Seattle a couple times a year. And because of that, Barney McCallum, who's one of our 3 founders, it was his son that was running Pickleball Inc. So then I got to meet Barney and have lunch with him, and then our friendship grew from there. So then, because of that Barney connection, I have like over 10 hours of recorded audio just with Barney talking about the history of the sport and things. So all that happened before like, hey, let's write a book. And so then my mom's like, you know, a lot of these new people have no clue like about the history, because all you know is, right, checking out the internet, and there's just these tidbits here and there. So we decided to gather up those stories, because basically nobody's getting any younger, and put the book together. So the book is pretty much all the history to the end of 2017. And it warms my heart that we got a lot of the stories before some people passed away. And unfortunately, our last founder, Barney McCallum, passed away in late November, early December. So, but I feel really good because those stories are like captured, right? And they're there. And now that the book's out, I have people all over the world email me and say, Jen, 20 years ago, this is our history of pickleball. So I'm collecting all that stuff. Nice, Pickleball Jeff. That's sort of how it started. And so it is the only book, but we really just wrote it for the passion for the game and for the history, and just really trying to preserve it all in one place. So that's kind of how that kind of rolled. Do I just keep going to on my list of questions?
Unless anyone's got a follow-up question, yeah.
Yeah,
Your
go
order
ahead.
has been
Jennifer, I
placed.
do have a question.
Yes, who's got the question?
Well,
So
just tell those of everybody who's on here, if they don't have their own copy, a signed copy, which I did as soon as it came out, but tell them how to get it. I mean, you might as well promote yourself, Jennifer.
Okay, well, I was thinking about that earlier, but what I was thinking is, so all you guys that are on the call, maybe 30 of us or something,
28.
I want to do a giveaway. Okay, so this will tie the book. So as you probably know, I have a ton of paddles at my house, and I have probably a few books. So I'm thinking after this call, if you guys can email me at jennifer@allpickleball.com. So it's ALLpickleball.com. And tell me if you want to be entered into the random drawing for a paddle or a book. And then tonight I'll say who the winners are. but by having your email, then I can give you a link to the book. How's that sound?
Great.
Wave your hands if you like this stuff.
Yeah, great. And what's the email address again, Jennifer? Is Jennifer?
So Jennifer, so JENNIFER at all pickleball.com. Yeah. So that's kind of where I do my little blog, and which is completely a hobby. But just this last month, I actually have the book up there because my mom says, I want to mail out the books. And I said, okay, well, I have to figure out how to do a shopping cart on my site. So that's what I did. So,
Jennifer, I have a question. On the origination of the name in the book, you know, no one seems to know. What is your true feeling on the origination of the name? Having talked to everyone and Barney and all, what do you think?
Ron, that's a good one.
We all want to know.
Ooh, are you sitting on the edge of your seat?
Yeah.
So, all right. So the name, right? So my mom and I were collecting all the history, right? And so, of course, I'm learning. You know, I've never really been a historian or self-published a book, so I'm like learning how to do all this. But as a historian, right, you're just taking all these people's knowledge and you know what they remember, their memories, right, and jotting them down. So for the name, I'm going to make it the short version. So the name, basically, there were at the cabin on Bainbridge Island, there was these couples. They were in the cabin, and they're thinking, you know what, this thing that we made up, we got to name it, because it's like we keep playing it, but we're not really calling it a name, right? So they did have that dog Pickles that ran around and chased the ball. So so they had you know, someone said, hey, let's call Pickleball. And right away, the couples in the cabin said, perfect, that's the perfect name. So they ran with Pickleball for a long time. And then 25-ish years later, I have to look at my notes, then one of the wife of one of the founders, so remember we have Joel Pritchard and his wife were one of the three founders. So Joanne's, she was a newspaper columnist, right? So she had access to the press. And so in her column, she said that she named the sport, and it was more of that whole pickle boat thing, right? Which kind of explains it, lots of detail in the book, because of course there's a whole chapter on the name. But so then Joan says, you know, it's I named it and it's after this. So there are lots of videotapings and recordings of people that were there that said it was definitely the dog. And then there's only one person that said, oh no, I named it and it was the pickle boat. So in writing the book, because this is like the inside scoop. So writing the book, I have to like, I was not there, right? So I have to just say that, okay, this person said this person said this. So, and I didn't feel that, my mom and I didn't feel it was right to say, by the way, this is what we think, right? Because I wasn't there. So it's kind of like the reader makes up their mind. But I have recordings, and so does Rusty of the Pickleball channel, who interviewed the Browns and these different families that were there. So I 100% believe it was named after the dog.
Good. Well, it's a much better story. It's a much better story anyway. So
yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole thing on like, well, it's a good story, so that's why they did it. It is a good story, but it's also many people's truth of, you know, that's really how it came down. So
right.
Isn't it majority rules though? If only one person,
some people say, well, the dog came years after they invented it, and I'm like, well, I don't think they named it for several years, so that's why. That's my reason.
That's the same thing. It's like these little, a lot of times the people with a lot of time on their hand, right? They just they attach to this particular topic, and they're like, yeah, well, you know, because I saw on the internet, you know, it was years ago, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, right? You know, like, the sky is
Okay.
purple. I mean, it's just like random things that are thrown out. So all I know is through, it took us 3 years to write the book, right? So it's just all the stories we could get. And then finally we had to say, okay, we have to stop the research and get it out there, right? Which was
Get it out there.
because Barney McCallum, he was in his early 90s, and I'm like, you know what? We have to get this book done, and I need Barney to see it. And then, of course, I hold my breath and hope that he approves it, right? Because all these interviews, when you get older, sometimes you could say, I didn't say that, or our memory might change. But Barney's was always like dead on. Like on my recordings, we might discuss the same story over, a couple years later. And I'm so amazed that guy had the exact story every single time on how things happen. So it was pretty cool.
Okay. Thanks for the name.
Yes. Yes. Did that help everyone?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Nice.
And do you know, Jennifer? Sorry, just a quick question on that. Do you know which ball they had when they started to play? Which ball did they have? Was it actually a wiffle ball they had, or was it a different ball?
Yeah. So on that, so a lot of our history talks about the ball and a wiffle ball, right? So there was a wiffle ball originally, but if you know much about a wiffle ball, the true wiffle ball does not have a straight flight, right? It has like this curve. So you could never truly play pickleball with the real, which is trademarked wiffle ball. So they did have a ball like a wiffle ball, and then they learned, well, that thing doesn't fly straight. So then they came up and they found the Cosm ball, and so they rolled with that one for many years on that one, and then
What was the name of that?
Cosm? Yeah, COSOM. I think, Fran, you're muted, but I see your mouth moving. Okay, but she was there. Go ahead, Fran. Well, you're still muted. But so that's a great question, Roberto. So that was the whole scoop on the ball. And so Pickleball Inc., right? So they were the only company which was owned by the McCallums. They're the only one that made the DuraFast 40 outdoor ball. So just think about how cool it is that you have this company that there's only one company that makes the one and only outdoor ball, because there were no other balls for decades. It's of course they didn't have the numbers playing as we do now, but it's just amazing how that all came about, and how many times the sport almost didn't survive because as it talks about in the book, like they had trade shows and trying to get the sport out to the PE gals, right, to try to promote it, because first you have to explain what the heck it is, right? But they go to a couple trade shows and they get 0 orders, so they're thinking, okay, we're done. But they just kind of kept with it, and that was really with Barney McCallum. And then of course here we are.
1 second, Jennifer. Fran,
yes.
Fran, you are unmuted. So do you want to just try your microphone if you're trying to speak? Yeah, because we can't hear you, but you are definitely unmuted. So I think it might be on your computer itself.
Yeah. But you look good, Fran. So I must do a shout out. So Fran, she was the first woman inducted into the Pickleball Hall of Fame, and she's also in the history book on different things. So it's very cool, of all that of the history. Try talking one more time, Fran.
If there's a backslash, just touch it and it should unslash it.
I thought it was her talking then.
Nice. All right, let's see what else I got on my questions while she's doing that. Someone says, what do you look for when choosing your favorite paddle? Want me to answer that one? Sure. Okay, so on paddles, I really think that it only takes about 5 6 minutes to figure out on a paddle if it feels good. So a lot of times people say you come from tennis and you're like, oh, I'm gonna kind of wear in the paddle and give it some time. And in my experience is right away, it's gonna feel great. There's like no vibration. You do some dinks, you do some hard shots. You're like, wow, this paddle feels great. Then it sounds so corny and simple, but it's like that. And there's a lot of paddles you're like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Then you just kind of move on and you borrow another friend's paddle and kind of cruise from there. So a lot of paddles are similar, even though companies market them a little different, but the materials and things and shapes and of course your weights and stuff. But for an overall paddle, it really is that feel. And I think you just have to trust yourself. Like, God, this seems helpful. Like I'm not fighting it. It has the power I need, or it has the touch I need. And then you just pretty much roll with that one paddle. Not very scientific, is it? Perfect. I don't know where we've got Miss Fran. All right, what else we got here? So pickleball, what pickleball balls do you prefer, indoor or outdoor? So my joke, or where I live in northern San Diego County, is basically we don't ever play indoors. So because we have such great weather, and we wish it would rain, but it really doesn't rain that much. So I'm not very good on the whole indoor thing. I've played a few tournaments, but mostly outdoor. And then of course my favorite ball would be the original ball, right, that they had on pickleball at the beginning, which is the DuraFast 40. So it's a lot faster because I don't know, you guys might know, I kind of like the fast game. But yeah, so that would be my favorite ball. But again, where I play, and most of all the tournaments are outdoors. So I'm always amazed of all you that play indoors, and then you like show up at nationals and you have to like compete for a week outdoors, right? It's like you have all the wind and you're like all these elements that you haven't had to challenge and play. And oh, here's one. The name of pickleball, should it be changed? Ooh, So I definitely do not think it should be changed. In the book, there's a section on Maui in Hawaii, because that was kind of really helped spur the sport, and there's some history there. But there was one evening when the founders, Barney McCallan and the other guys would go to Hawaii for like 3 weeks every year. The same house, the house had a pickleball court, and they would have their cocktails every night and play and trash talk each other and have a good time. So there was one night that they thought, you know what, should we change this name to Puka Ball? And go like this. Have you ever heard Puka Ball? Nice. Okay.
Pickleball.
Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a shell with holes, right? So they're sitting around and they're thinking about this again with their cocktails, and I think Barney probably had a cigar going, and they discussed it. And then the next day they're like, no, we're keeping pickleball. So that was the one thing. Susan, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I am. I just wanted to say, the only reason I ever thought it should be named is it just sounds, for the longest time, my friends were playing like 6, 8, 10 weeks before I ever picked up a ball. I said, it just sounds stupid. I don't like pickles. It just sounds dumb. Why would I want to play a game like pickleball? And then, so that's the only thing. And people think it's a joke, so, but yeah. I agree. It should stick around. If the founders decided that's what they wanted to name it, that's what it should be.
All right. Yeah. And you could probably debate that forever, right? I mean, there's a sport squash. I mean, there's some really funky names out there.
Right.
And so I'm one really for like the history, like how they did the rules and they didn't mess with them, and scoring and like, staying to those roots. Just what makes
by golly,
like
if
we're
a
not
sport
like.
called, if a sport called cornhole can get on to ESPN, I think pickleball can.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but that, I mean, that is a good question. And I've seen on social media that debated, and, you know, some people are very passionate about that name, or say we should have rally scoring, or we should, you know, I mean, they're super passionate. So, I just kind of go back to the history, and, you know, speaking of the history of the rules, right? For decades, the rules of pickleball were on one page. So they had this one page of the rules, and that would be sent out with the net set, right? And you just kind of rolled with it, and it wasn't like a big discussion, or, you know, a year of meetings or debates. And so it's just kind of interesting how that goes. But
Jeff's got his hand up, Jennifer.
say it again.
Jeff's got his hand up.
Oh, go for it, Jeff.
Okay, Jennifer, when was the exact big turnaround of pickleball really to grow from a low level that it was to suddenly to peak? When was it, and how did it come about?
You mean, how did we kind of get on this rise that we're on?
Yeah, so it was flatlining, and then suddenly we had a big peak of pickleball. Where did it come from, and how?
Right. So I've been around, like I said, we're like on 11 years now. So when I started, the only like prize money of pickleball was at nationals, right? And you could get like maybe $500 if you won gold, $250 silver, and that was it. And then like we had like Grand Canyon games in Arizona, and all the top players would, you know, they'd go there. There was no money for winning, but it was just so much of that love of the sport. And then, so what are we, 4 or 5 years ago, then those more big companies were coming in, right? Manufacturers of paddles and balls, and so more money pretty much got into the sport, because I think it was like the hidden secret, right? Because we all love it, right? So we're like, heck yeah, it's the funnest thing ever. So more people got it, and then I think just with more money, and you know how the prize money is unreal now on some stuff. So that all grew, the equipment, more options, more players, and I just think it got out there more, and that really gave us that escalation, you know, and we're still riding that wave, even though the world has, you know, the last hiccup the last 3 months. So it'll be interesting to see what next year brings, but it's definitely not going away. I mean, it's so fun. And even, you know, there's a small percentage that really play these tournaments. So these people in their community, when they go to the rec center, you know, it gets them off the couch and out and social. And I just think more people are finding out about it. And then like all you guys internationally spreading the word, you know, it's so cool. Was that sufficient, Jeff? Oh, Fran Meyer. Oh, she's still muted. Gosh, girl.
She's not muted.
Oh.
It's on her computer, I think. Maybe
someone under attack.
I'm just seeing what I can do. I don't think I can do anything.
She could write her questions or what she wants to say on screen.
Yes, Fran, could you
Message
type it
function.
in the message? Can you see the message area? Could you type your message, your question?
Jennifer, as a tag on to
Little-
what you said, when did it go from not being able to get anything at a convention to getting it a little bit more active, the people with the ball?
Oh, you mean when they did those trade shows?
Right, it was from nothing, and then somehow it got to USAPA and helping it grow. But how did it make that leap? Do you know?
Right. Yeah, so that's a good one, Melanie. So basically, I'd have to look up the exact dates in the book, but so for decades, it was nothing happened. So it's not like they named it after the dog and it just exploded, right? So they're really just playing on Bainbridge Island, and then which is only where they had summer cabins. So then everybody, when it's time to go to work and back to school in the fall, they'd all go back to Seattle to where their homes are, and then they'd work, and then they kind of played in the driveways and stuff. but it didn't explode. So when I was doing interviews and stuff and talking with some old timers in Seattle, like they didn't know people were playing in Florida or at the villages, right? They were just hanging out playing. So there was these pockets of playing, and then the word spread a lot because of seniors, right? And they're living in two places, or they're RVing, or they're in Florida and then they're in Thailand, or wherever they lived. So then they kind of spread it, and then that's sort of how it went. And then the USAPA evolved, which is a whole, there's a few chapters on a few different USAPAs and things like that. But so it was a very organic, slow, over decades. And in fact, in our book, I think there's a span of like 8 years that there was like nothing in the media, on internet searches and stuff that we could find that even talked about pickleball. So they kind of talked about it, didn't, and then, came on back around. Nice, good question. All right, anyone else, or I'm going to do my little scroll so I can see all your happy faces. Yay. I see Gemma is from Spain. I can't see her, but I do want to do a shout out because I remember meeting her and Danny at our first, let me see the date, the first, in 2015, the International Pickleball Tournament in Madrid. And that's where I kind of met a lot of you guys, and then kind of took it from there. But I've always loved being, and luckily fortunate enough to travel to kind of be some of the first ones, first tournaments, and the Bainbridge Cup with Mike Hess, and Amsterdam in 2016, and things like that. And then Canada, I see Ian from Nova Scotia, Canada. See if we got any other Canadas. Oh yeah, there's another one. Yay! Yeah. So yeah, Douglas. So the fun thing it says on here. So Canada, right? So 2012 was Canada's first pickleball nationals, and it was in Abbotsford. So I went, and at that time, I was sponsored by Pickleball Inc., which is in Seattle, right? So Seattle, Abbotsford's, I don't know, 4 hours, or, it's an easy drive. So that was the first time I crossed into the Canadian border. And so 2012 all the way to 2017, I went to every Canadian nationals, because it's so cool to be like part of all that. So, and I helped write the Canada chapter of the book. But anyway, so that was really fun. Another question, I think Karen had this. Where have you traveled for pickleball? So Canada, the Caribbean, which was really just St. Lucia, Costa Rica, Japan, Mexico, which was Baja California, the Netherlands, Europe, Spain, and then last year was Singapore and Thailand. And then next year, I'm hoping Ireland, Scotland, London-ish. So there you go.
Finland is pretty near London, so
nice.
Only 3 hours.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, so I'm going to come see you in Finland because I haven't been there either.
Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
right. Okay, well, I still have you guys on. I want to remind you, in case I see a couple logged on before if I lose any. So I want to give away the paddle. Probably will cost more to mail it to wherever you are than what it is, but the paddle and a book and stuff. So make sure you email me afterwards, Jennifer@allpickleball.com, and then and tell me what you want, and then I'll throw all your names in a hat, and then tonight I'll email you back, and I just think that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would.
Right, free stuff. I mean, why not?
By the way, Jennifer, your book has reached your book has reached Czech Republic. So we had a friend from Czech Republic here in Bristol, and she left to go back home, and we gave her a book as a gift to say goodbye. So your book is traveled over there as well.
So so Roberta, does that mean that you could buy it there, or she brought it there?
So we gave it to her. We brought it from we brought it from the internet, and then we gave it to her. And yeah, we sign it. We put all, our messages at the front, and then I think there was a picture on Instagram and on Facebook. But I can send it to you. I can send you the couple of pictures we took with the book. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Also, I want to do. I'm going to take your guys' picture. So you all have to wave to me. Wave, because. Hold on, I got to scroll to the other group. Because you got so cool. Okay, keep waving. Nice. Okay. I know Karen's recording, but I don't know if I could see all your happy faces. So, all right, let me see if I don't want to get in trouble. Let me see my questions. What else do you do other than pickleball? So really, I still work a little bit. I've always worked remotely, so I'm a marketing consultant. So I help a few businesses with their marketing or some of their website back end kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool because I can do that remotely. So I still do a little bit of that. And then of course, love traveling. Although you guys would laugh because before pickleball, I never needed to go to Europe or travel internationally. I was thinking I'm just going to conquer all the national parks in the United States and my world will be complete. And then I was like, oh wait, pickleball, I get to go there? What? Okay. And then, so the different trips kind of kept coming up. And then I'm like, yes, I love traveling and meeting all you and things like that. So, so that's really new for me, probably in the last 5 or 6 years.
So you used to be a physiotherapist too.
Say it again?
You used to be a physiotherapist?
No, no.
Physio?
Who's saying this? I'm going to see who you are.
It's Doug.
Doug, okay. Oh, there you go. No, I was not.
Oh.
No, I was. But if you Google it, maybe there's another Jennifer Lucore that was that.
Yeah, because I got a bad rotator cuff from playing pickleball and tennis and table tennis. I play all three, and it was too much for my arm. But I'm sure it was somebody like you who gave me some information over the internet as to how to fix it, and it worked.
Oh, well, that's.
I'm still really enjoying the game at age 75, so that's pretty good.
That's awesome. I think that might have been on my blog. I had a physical therapist do a couple posts about that. So I bet you that's where that came from. So that was helpful. But yeah, speaking of, as we get older, right, we get, because what am I? I'm 53. No, wait. Maybe 54, because maybe I'll be 55 in pickleball years next year, I think.
Yeah, maybe. You're just a kid still, yeah.
Yes. But I notice, it's like, wow, my knees are a little bit sore today. And in fact, I was asking, I was at the doctor's and I'm like, okay, this kind of hurts. And they're like, yeah, you probably have a lot of mileage on your knees. And I was like, oh, I like that idea, mileage, instead of, worn down or something like that. So mileage is, I guess we all have mileage if we're active, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got in
Yeah.
about 5 hours yesterday, so I'm feeling it a little bit today.
Mr. Ron.
Jennifer, I was just wondering if you'd ever had a serious sporting injury, and if how long was the longest period that you couldn't play for?
Oh, that's a good one. So actually, I haven't had any until last year. I tore my left meniscus on my knee. So I don't know when I tore it. It wasn't but I was like, God, my knee hurts. So I went to the doctor and he gave me this lovely big old knee brace. So last year in September at the Tournament of Champions, I show up with this knee brace on. It's not a little knee brace. It's this big, keep my knee aligned, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, people will just, they'll just ignore me and not look at it, and they won't know what it's for. And so I laughed because all the seniors, right? So anyone that was 50 and over comes up to me like, Jennifer, oh, I have the same brace, or I know exactly what that is. And I was like, how do these people know? So basically, in competing right now, I'm wearing that brace to keep it aligned, and there's no need for surgery or anything. But so I'm just rolling with that brace this year, and then we'll see. But when I play, luckily, I forget I have it on. But I know when you look at it, like, oh, she can't move, let's lob her. But once you get a couple of those overheads done, then they're like, oh, okay, I guess that didn't work. So it's kind of fun. Yeah. Great question.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So are you guys all planning to?
A little tip, Jennifer. If you hurt one knee and you've got a pad over it, get another pad and put it over the other knee. That confuses the opponents as to which one's bad. So you can get away with a lot with that.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's my first time I ever wore, anything on my body, because a lot of us are maybe elbow or, these braces or the wraps, So it was really interesting because people do look at you different, and then they totally play you, because you want to play the weaker person, right? That's the smartest thing, especially in tournaments with big money. And so I always know in my head, like, okay, I just got to get like the first 5 points that they're picking on me, like get through that. And then it's like game on, and I'm like, no more knee brace girl. So. Nice.
That's also good in mixed play, because mixed play, they're sensing out how strong the woman is. But if you can be determined those first several points in mixed play, then it gives your partner opportunity to play, which takes stress off of you and relieves the pressure on you. So it's good philosophy.
Yeah, exactly, Melanie. Even like if for any of you guys, right, you're playing doubles or mixed or whatever, right? And they're picking on you, and you just like, okay, if I can just, I know, and you're thinking, yeah, this is kind of my weaker shot at the moment. But if you can just hang in there and just keep getting that back, and then they're like, oh, well, that's not a weak spot anymore. And then they move on. And even though in your head, you're like, well, it really is a weak spot, but now they don't know, right? It's like, that's the best thing. So you just have to think like, if I'm getting picked on, like just it doesn't have to be a winner. I just have to keep getting it back, and then they kind of leave me alone. And that works wonders for sure, knee brace or not. Yeah. So anyway, let me see what else I got here. Pickleball. Oh, explain the 1 foot in to serve and how it came about. Do we want to know that one? Sure. Okay. It goes on to, so I'm gonna see if you can see this. Let me see. I gotta see what I look like so I can see if I can show you guys. All right.
What page is that?
Page 85.
Thanks.
Can you see that? So it's the house with the tree.
Right.
Okay. So that's a picture of the original court, right, on Bainbridge Island, which was built in the 30s, right? It's an asphalt surface. And so this is where the game was originated. So there's this huge tree, which is just a few feet back from the baseline. So when they developed the rules, right, which this was the location, you could step 1 foot in when you were serving. All right, so you have 1 foot back, but you could step forward as you hit the ball. So, and that's what they call 1 foot in to serve. So that was the rules for decades. So even Steve Pirano, which is quoted in the book, when he was playing some indoor tournaments and stuff, that you could step 1 step already in the court. And that came about because of that tree. So, and then later they traded, but I asked Barney about that, the tree or a lot of times you have obstacles, right? And at the court you're at, maybe there's a bush or a bench or that are permanent structure. Well, Barney would say like, run them into the tree then, and he was like, see if you can get George to fall over the bench, or it was so funny. So that was it was a fixture that was part of the game, and you just had to deal with it. I'll leave you with this last funny little tidbit. So the founders, right? They're playing, and even at the beginning, they would trash talk each other. Like, it's like, hey, is that all you got? They would, back and forth kind of razz each other. And then afterwards, right, then you go to dinner, you have your cocktails or whatever. But I like to share that, because where you're playing with your group, the whole, teasing each other back and forth and stuff, that was so part of the creating the game. And I so think, that's why it's so fun. So it's important to kind of be loose and have fun with your friends, and know that that's okay, because that's what the original, creators did, and that we can do. And we can kind of see a little bit of that permission, right, at like the US Open, right, that people are cheering and they're not like super quiet like a tennis or something, but that's truly like how the game is. It's meant to be fun, and it's meant to be social.
Fran has found her voice. It's not verbally, it's in writing. She pointed out that the USAPA changed the rule around 2006 to make having both feet behind the baseline a requirement.
Oh, good girl, Fran. And that's, when you think about it, that's not even that long ago, right? 2006. Wow, that's amazing. So
we still have that rule, and so we're playing Stevens, New Brunswick, because the wall is only 3 feet from the line, so we allow people to step in.
Oh, there you go, Keith. Yeah, I mean, you kind of just do what you can do, right?
Yeah, and just if you're really nice to the other person, try to really push every ball really deep at the line for them.
Yeah, exactly. It is like I remember when I was in the same idea, like in Singapore, right? They're really big into badminton, right? So they already have like all these gyms. They already have their court and their lines, and a lot of times they don't want to like re-tape the line for pickleball, right? Because it's a little bit different. So it's like, who cares? Let's just run with the badminton line, and then let's just play, right? Because it's all about let's play. We only have, you only have an hour before you have to go back to work or whatever. So you just like Keith said, you just kind of deal with it and have fun and get your exercise and stay healthy. I love how all you guys are still.
Yeah, we can all can't wait. We can all can't wait to go back to the courts.
Right. I know. Me too. I mean,
We're starting next week.
Who is?
This is in Canada, and we have to have our temperature taken, and we have to swear that we haven't been sick or been tired or had ibuprofen to lower our temperature. All this is going to happen when we first start. But I think that after about a week, we'll probably get fed up with doing that and just play as we used to. I'm going to take a mask just in case anyone's really fussy.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. It is interesting because we all kind of have different numbers, and again, I think some of you only have indoor options, like whereas I am, we're only outdoors, so it's obviously much easier to spread out and things like that. But it'll be interesting about if nationals holds and some of these tournaments hold for the rest of this year, and how much of course the world's took a hit business wise and stuff. So but to keep our sanity, I'm just so happy that we have all you and our little pickleball game to like get some energy and burn some energy.
As a professional player, do you have hesitation flying to a tournament where people would have come in from many locations, or is that not something in your thought process?
I think that is in my thought process. So like what I have coming up, so Tournament Champions is big on most of all the pro list, right? So that's end of August in Brigham City, Utah, right? Mm-hmm. So that is one. I'm actually driving in an RV there, so I got out of the flying thing. But most of all those pros, they will be flying, and seems like Utah, like I said, hasn't really closed much of their play and is outdoors. So I kind of feel like that one's going to hold at the moment. So yeah.
Jennifer, I will say, so I just spent a month in Utah. they are spiking like crazy. They're 14 of their highest 15 days of new cases have been in the last 2 weeks. It's just, so we'll see. Yeah. But I just signed up to rep at TOC today, so I'll see you there.
It's unknown. And like for nationals, right? So nationals is only 2-hour drive from me. It's in Indian Wells, as you guys probably know. But so that county where nationals is, Riverside County, that's the same area that has this famous musical festival like Stagecoach and Coachella. Well, those were all postponed till October of this year. And then just last week, they got canceled. So not that nationals is like a Stagecoach, but the fact that it's a big, it's a big setting and people. So of course, it's all dependent on the county stuff, not really the venue. So, of course, I hope it holds it, but it's just, again, just like the August one, it's just a little bit unknown, especially as where we live, we're more opened up now, but then, spikes, but then there's more testing and blah, blah, blah.
Is there anything you see that tournaments can do to add something that would be beneficial for the tournament to encourage players to still play? Or do you think there really isn't anything you can do just because of the dynamics of pickleball?
Yeah, I usually like to stay out of all that because that would be kind of political and the tournament director stuff, and like to keep it fun. But yeah, it's really, I really think those counties are, so it's not really, of course, the tournament director is going to do all the rules that they're told they need to hold. But yeah, it's just all a new territory for us all, and tournaments and things like that. So it's, we're kind of just all holding on for the ride. I'm sure I see Steve Sidwell, even though he's on mute, he would agree. It's just, we just kind of don't know. And usually of the tournaments I've had since March that got canceled, I got a pretty good heads up notice. So just like we did on the Bainbridge Cup, and stuff. So you had time to kind of cancel flights and hotels and, seems like get your credit back or, not lose all your money on that. So good questions, Melanie. Tuomo, am I doing good for you? Oh, he's on mute.
Sorry?
I said, am I doing okay for you?
Oh, you are doing fantastic.
Since you're the reason I'm here, I love it.
No. You're doing just fine.
Let me see my other questions. Oh, funniest memory. So I couldn't really think of one because I think most of you that know me, I'm kind of all about having fun anyway, right? Because I think life, even before this year, sometimes can be too serious, or you have all these demands, or taking care of parents or children and all these things, right? So pickleball's always been like the release. Like I'm going there for 2 hours. I want to put that all out of my mind. I just want to have fun with my friends. So I've always kind of rolled with pickleball's fun, and I don't really get stressed out, or even in big tournaments, like I never think, oh my God, I have to win, or whatever. I just do the, like we all do the best we can that day. And then, whatever happens. So, but it always is fun, right? But the funniest, I think the last couple of days I thought of, the funniest is just when I've seen pictures of when I'm playing mixed doubles, and I'm not very obedient on staying on my side of the court. And so I see these pictures like, I was like Dave Weinbach or Kyle Yates or even Marcin, that there's these pictures and I'm like all tangled up with them, trying to go for that volley or the ball. And some might have been on my side, but a lot of times in mix, the guys will cheat over a little bit, which of course they can, especially if it's, big prize money or something. But so I just laugh at myself because I know a lot of times I know that they can probably get it, but I'm just so amped up and I'm just kind of like tracking the ball that I just go for it. And then sometimes there's a little bit of not a collision because we don't fall over, but when the camera can capture that moment, it just cracks me up. And my kids see it and they're going, "Oh my God, Mom!" So it's kind of
usually the guys that do that. So it's nice to see that, or to hear that the girls sometimes do it too.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure if you ask the guys, they'd go like, "Excuse me, Jennifer, you're in my way." So that's sort of the funny thing. So if we still have time, you guys have any other questions before we get booted? I love how you're all here.
Do you have
yeah, Jennifer?
Okay, Jill, go ahead. Jill from Utah.
Yes, I had one on the chat, but I was just wondering, I'm so curious to know, of those 3 couples that started, did they name the non-volley zone as the kitchen? Is that where that came from? I didn't read your book, so I bet you it's in there.
God. That's a great question. Okay, so, and this is now that I have you guys on homework too. So basically, Jill, of the history, at the beginning, it was always non-volley zone. So the original rules, they rolled with that. And then sometime, I don't know, say 20 years ago, something, then the word kitchen popped up. Okay. And so my mom and I try to tell everyone that we cannot figure out where the term kitchen came from. So in all our interviews, it's either they rolled with, they called it the non-volley zone, or they called it the kitchen. And then there's a few people that, say, well, they have an idea, like, because of funny saying, it's too hot, get out of the kitchen, whatever. But I said, okay, as a historian, like, I need some facts. Like, do you have like when did you hear kitchen? And so that's kind of part of my collecting history since the book came out is, and in the book we say, if you know where the term kitchen originated, please let me know. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So you just click
is it true that
it's very cool. So on all your out there, that I have not been able to tack down like where that came from with some facts and stuff.
Fran thinks that maybe it came from Surprise, Arizona. She said we've always called it the non-volley zone in Seattle.
Yes, right. And so there's these ideas, right? So we think it's here, we came from here, we think it's because of this funny saying, and it's like, but it's like I would love to know kind of more like a year and a location, kind of to track it. But in fact, just last month, my mom got an email from someone who said the kitchen term sooner than what we had thought. So we're kind of like chasing that little road of see if we can find out more from that person's memory of kitchen. So it's amazing on history how you have this one little nugget of info, and then there's like 5 different roads you have to travel to try to get that information.
We have people in North Carolina who say, you were in the kitchen so long, you could have baked a cake.
Yes, right. So there's always these funny terms, right? But then it's like, okay, but how did it start? So
somebody was telling me that the kitchen name came from Canada. It originated from there, but I'm not sure how true that is.
Right. Yeah, Roberta. Yeah, same thing. So it's like kind of this little nugget of, I think, but so now when you guys email me, you'll have my email address, so you can if you find something, you can say, well, my doubles partner has facts that 30 years ago they called it kitchen, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Jennifer?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just curious now because in the past there's been a kind of a strange relationship between tennis and pickleball. And certainly that's the case. In the UK, they're a little bit suspicious of the new sport that's coming along and maybe wanting to steal their players or whatever. But I know in the USA that, since some of the big places like Bobby Riggs Tennis Club and so on and so forth embrace pickleball, I'm just wondering if there's been an attitude change over there, and how it is currently when pickleball kind of approaches tennis clubs.
There you go. That's a good one, Elaine. So historically, I have talking with Barney McCallan, and I think I have a couple sentences of it in the book. But at the beginning, the historians, they never wanted to go or attack tennis. So they never wanted to like, oh, you tennis people, you know, like divide them, right? So they were always like, this is just another sport. You know, if you play tennis, it's an easy crossover. So that's kind of interesting, because even at the beginning, right, they ran into like, oh, can we have your court? You know, can you share your court? No, I'm not sharing my court. And so, but over time, in my 11 years, I've definitely seen it open. And I think the second that we got our nationals at Indian Wells, right?
Yeah.
Like the mecca of a tennis, they're like, oh, okay, now if you were tennis, you know, they're like, oh, well, okay, maybe pickleball is not so bad. It just, the perception of pickleball taking over that whole venue for 7-8 days or whatever, which is a famous tennis place, right? And the fact that they repaint all those tennis courts into pickleball courts, and you know, a beautiful venue. The fact that pickleball's there, I think that just moved us up several notches when I think it was Jeff was asking me about how that whole thing went. But yeah, and so I still think you know, there's going to be crabby tennis people and not crabby, and some cities or city councils, you know, they get how, you know, they should share, or maybe they could do a permanent line, or it's just so different. So you just kind of like Fran has done over years in Seattle and stuff, you just keep letting them know that, you know, this would be great for the members of their club or the citizens of their city, you know, who also had this pickleball. And then it just seems when the city people that get it, or maybe they play sports, then they make it happen, because it's like, as we know, it's such a no-brainer. I mean, we have 4 courts on one deserted pickleball court, you know, in the city that's collecting dust or something. So, but I do think there'll still be crabby people with whatever, and then you just kind of move on to a different area. And then I always laugh, because, you know, me and Alex Hamner, who I play doubles with, we did tennis before together. So we played for our local country club, and then we play other tennis clubs. And in fact, we would play Jennifer Dawson, right? Who the Dawsons own Bobby Riggs, which is you know, 20 minutes from my house, because she's a really good top tennis player. So, you know, we would play them and stuff, and they knew like, oh, Jennifer and Alex are playing this pickleball thing. And then over the years, we look and we're like, hey, that girl looks familiar. It's like, oh, she was in our tennis league. Look, now she's playing pickleball. So they come around, but definitely don't hit your head against the wall, because it's just like you got to plant the seeds, and some pop up, and and then some never get it, which is fine, because we don't want crabby people playing anyway.
Hey, Jennifer, having been in pickleball so long, having seen pickleball change so much, what changes surprised you the most? What absolutely did you say to yourself, wow, I never thought that would happen with pickleball?
Well, that's a good one. Well, I think the whole nationals going to Indian Wells, that was like huge, right? Because this big company and the founder, the owner guy there, forgetting his name, but he's like, oh yeah, sure. So I think that was huge. And I actually, on a very small scale, I don't know if you follow me on Facebook, but on my Facebook post I just put a couple days ago, I was at my local Costco, and you know, and I saw that they had Wilson paddles. It was paddle set, two Wilson paddles, 2 balls, and probably a bag for like $59, but like in my Costco. And it just makes my heart warm, because I mean, that's to the masses, right? And that it's not like the wood paddle, right? That sometimes we see that the little kids can play, but that a name brand paddle there. And I've seen them a little bit at my Walmart, and we have Dick's Sporting Good and stuff. But so when I see those, I just love it, because it's like, oh, so now they get it, because again, we all get it, but it just gets out more to the masses.
I remember that I asked you if you bought it.
Oh, was it you, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, then that opened a whole can of worms because you asked me, did you buy the Wilson? I think I said no, but then I made a smart ass comment that, oh, but I could have because I'm a free agent. I mean,
yeah.
Which I don't know why I said it, but so then I like got several texts like, Jennifer, what? You're not with Prince? What's happening? And so it's like, so it's kind of fun now. I have a couple people like, hey, come play with my paddle. Just because of your post, I did that.
And I should have asked you to play with my paddle.
Oh, yes, that's right. Because I'm like, oh, you have paddles. So, you know, because I'm not, I kind of like to stay a little bit out of the limelight. But anyway, so I threw that out there. But I'm like, who thought so many people would see that thread on the one post on my Facebook? So.
Fran's made another comment. She said that the change she's noticed is people paying to see people play. Big change.
Yes, that's huge. And that made my mom so mad because at Pickleball at Nationals last year, I think it was we're playing on center court, and my mom had to pay to go in to watch me. And for people that have been in pickleball a long time, it's like, you got to be kidding. That's my daughter out there, you know. And so that's sort of a family joke about the paying, but yeah, I mean, you know, help. Yeah, it's an interesting, even as a player, right? For the U.S. Open, I had to purchase tickets on the days I'm not playing, so I could go into the main thing to watch, you know, my friends play. So don't think, you know, even players have to purchase tickets unless, you know, so U.S. Open, unless you're in the finals or you were selected to play on those courts during the day, you can't get in without, you know, your magic ticket.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's interesting. I think on the U.S. Open, it makes sense because it's just a small venue. But when you have at the Nationals, right, there's so many seats, right? So I kind of like the whole, you know, let them come in. And I think it's good to see more people in the stands, you know, for the media, right? So when they're televising, it's not like empty seats. And your friend that checks out pickleball goes like, well, I don't know, but nobody's in the seats. So there's kind of a strategic thing on that one.
Who actually introduced you to pickleball, Jennifer?
Good question. Would be my parents. So my parents, Bev and Bob Youngren, they've been playing, like I said, since a little bit before 2000. So they were in their RV traveling. My parents are in their mid-70s, late 70s right now. So they were traveling. They came upon pickleball, and then so for years they would play pickleball, and they would compete. In each state would have their senior Olympics or whatever, right? So they would always say, you know, I'm in Texas now and I won this medal. So my brother and I would always, you know, joke with them like, oh yeah, mom and dad are playing pickleball. So we would kind of make fun of them. And then now, you know, I'm playing pickleball. So now my brother makes fun of all three of us.
So when did your parents start playing?
So in 2000.
Okay.
Or something like that. Yeah. Oh, I'm just looking at the back of my book. It says the late 1990s but she was an ambassador. There was three people that were the first USAPA ambassadors, and that was in 2001. So 2001 is when we kind of started the whole USAPA ambassador program. Nice. God, you guys are all still here. I haven't made you fall asleep.
Impossible.
Leo's still awake. Imagine that.
With the Pokeball shirts.
Yes. Oh, yes. I don't know if you guys can see Leo. That's exactly it. So again, so for a day or so, right, the founders thought about the whole pickleball, but they're like, no, you know, pickleball, it's, even though it's a funny name, like people remember it. So they were really rolling with that. So
I would ask a question, Jennifer.
Yes.
Oh, when you talk to Bernie and you know, the inventors of the sport, did they tell you sort of like what was the biggest aspiration or the dream of pickleball in future? What they want to see pickleball to become in future?
Good one. Yeah, so Roberto on that. So basically, Barney would tell you that they had no dreams for it. I mean, he made it to our first nationals at Indian Wells. He flew in with his daughter, and he luckily agreed to sit in a wheelchair so we could push him around. Well, that was a discussion in itself. But so he and the founders, they didn't think of it anything. They didn't know it would grow. They just knew that it was fun in their area and stuff. And so for like the last 3 or 4 years, when I talked with Barney, in fact, I would talk to him like monthly over the last 5 years. He was kind of like a grandfather to Alex Hamner and I. So anyway, we would always update him on like what's going on in the sport, you know, like, oh, Barney, there's this new magazine out. It's the Pickleball magazine. It's like full color. He's like, no way, you know, of these things. So he never imagined, or I don't think they ever dreamed of any of this. So he was always very excited to hear, you know, he'd always say, okay, girls, he'd call us girls. Okay, girls, you know, what's going on in pickleball? And then he'd say, have they changed the rules? And then we're like, well, no, you know, but so they never dreamed in a million years that, you know, we would be where we are today.
And what was the reaction when did you tell them about the, you know, they were going to bring the sports to the Olympics, and what was the reaction to that?
Oh yeah, he'd just go, wow. Like, I mean, he just like, every time we would tell him something new, or we'd say, and he played tennis, right? So he followed tennis. So we'd say, Barney, guess nationals is going to be at Indian Wells, because he knew what Indian Wells was. He had been there to watch tennis. And he's like, no. We're like, yes, they have a 5-year contract. They're going to paint the courts. And he's just like, wow. So he, yeah. And this, you know, I mean, so it's just, he led such a great life. And he would tell you that he was very successful in the printing. He printed envelopes, and he actually had patents on printing presses, and very smart guy. But this pickleball was always just a hobby, right? He said, he would even say in his speeches, it didn't put braces on my children's teeth, right? So that they didn't make money off pickleball. So it's just like he had the box of wooden paddles and some balls in his office, and people would come by and get them and things like that. So all this stuff, all the different new things that we learned was just, he was just tickled pink every time we talked, because there was always something new. Or Barney, you know, where 500 people signed up for this tournament. No way, you know, there's 2,000 people. No way. So.
How nice.
Yeah. I've got a little fun fact for you, actually. I was talking to Melissa McCurley, and she told me that in 2019, there were 748 tournaments listed on pickleballtournaments.com for that year. Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
How many?
748.
Right. And you got to remember, that's just the people that sign up to use pickleball tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's more than double of those just in their little community that, you know, hand do their draws, or, you know, they don't need the pickleball tournaments to run it. So, yeah, it's just, it's like, it is amazing, all those stats basically.
And Fran has said when she started Pickleball Stuff website in 1999, there were 32 listed places to play. How many are there now, Fran?
Oh, there's a lot. I would say, or is it pickleball court? Something's 20,000.
Wow.
Yeah, a whole lot.
Wow.
I love it how Fran's lips are moving, but we don't hear you.
Is this your first call, Fran?
I love it. I love it. I love Fran. I mean, we have, she's known my mom forever, and so that's how I got to meet Fran. But when we're together, oh my gosh, we laugh so much and have so much fun. So she's done a ton of great stuff for the sport, and she was one of the first tournament directors at nationals. And our first nationals was 2009 for the USAPA. So she helped run that, and so she has a ton of behind the scenes, and because this is all volunteer, right? So ambassador, and just for the love of the sport, basically. So I'm still loving how I'm looking, how I see Gabby in Switzerland and England and North Carolina and Utah still here, and Florida, and Leo's still awake, and Finland's there. In fact, I got an email, and I don't think he made it, but Keith Bean, he's in Queensland, Australia. He saw my email and he said, "Jennifer, I'm going to try to make it, but it's 3 a.m. for me." And I said, "Oh my God, that's so dedicated." I'm like,
well,
no,
we've had people, Manish from India has been on a few times, and also Mega from also from India has been on, but it's like middle of the night for them.
Yes. And so I did get to meet Manish, and he's in my book, and he has a great picture, because the courts, and I think they still play on them, and you might have seen them on like Facebook or something, but the pickleball court he always plays on has this huge tree. Have you guys seen that? Mm-hmm. No. So like the original one I showed you, the tree was kind of in the middle. Well, there's a huge tree off one of the corners of the baseline. And I'm just amazed that so today they still play with that big old tree, because it looks like a nice court, and maybe in the center of a community or something, it's outdoors. But yeah, so I always think of him in the tree. So you, like Barney would say, "Oh, hit the ball over by the tree."
It's Club MK.
Yeah.
Club MK.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
So Melody's coming up with the facts now. 3 years ago, 26 states had tournaments on pickleball tournaments. 2 years ago, 32 states, and now all states have tournaments listed on pickleball tournaments, even Alaska.
Wow.
We know that because my bucket list, which I never had a bucket list, is to do a tournament in every state. When we first started looking, there was 26 states, and then a year later, and now you can do it everywhere, even Alaska. So I've got like 15 states, and we're trying to get more. These countries are getting in the way. Are so fun because we've met you all, so it's fun.
Right. Yeah, and I have thinking of their name at the moment, but there's this one couple. They're in the book, and they said that they're the first to play in every state. I have to look it up, but yeah. So isn't it cool how we all have our little bucket list? Like at the beginning, I used to think before pickleball, I just want to go to every national park, in the U.S. or whatever, or national park. And then it's like, now I'm like, I want to play every pickleball court somewhere, So.
It would be a lot easier to play in every state and do a tournament in every state, because we can't dovetail, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado with tournaments every weekend. We tried that. We were going to rent an RV, but their schedule didn't work so that we could go from state to state very easily. So we're making lots of single trips across the United States. Sure is fun. We're a lot of neat people.
Right. And I'm looking, I still see we have Mr. France sitting there. He's on mute.
Cyril,
So
yeah.
that's
Cyril.
Huh?
I was just saying Cyril.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
it's your friend.
I just like, because I just remember where you're from, but meeting him years ago, and it's just so cool. So can't wait. In Switzerland, I got to get there. And then I have the best video of me and Elaine when I was in Thailand, and I got a scooter ride from her. In fact, I think I posted that on your.
Yeah, you did.
Yes. It was my first scooter ride.
Oh, it was great fun. Great fun.
Yeah.
You didn't scream too loud.
No, I was holding on for dear life.
Right, well, we'll start to wrap this up. Has anyone got a final question for Jennifer?
Just thank you for what you've done and writing the book. And I know I skimmed through it when I got it, and that reminded me I really need to go back and read all of the fine print now and really, it's nice to be able to have that to explain to people. I should put it in my my pickleball bag like I have my rule book, because when people start arguing about stuff, this way I can take out the definitive, here it is, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could say, the founders weren't really into arguing and debating. They just
it was let's play, let's have fun.
Yeah, let's just play, and we don't need to talk about it and have a committee. Let's just make a decision, move on.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point, Susan. Sweet. Well, so you guys don't forget to email me, and then I can give stuff away and figure out how the heck I'm mailing it to you. But
and out of the 11 weeks, you're the only person who has offered to give anything away. So that's just to you.
maybe that's all about the whole fun thing, right? I mean, it's just you have to have fun, and for a few years I've got some paddles free, so they're kind of stacking up. So I'm thinking, let's share some of that wealth.
On the forum last week, somebody said, since so many pros have now shown up, and we've had plenty of the top names and probably most of the top names so already, somebody posted, who's going to be the first pro to say, no, I don't want to do that. It's kind of like, it's now, they've got, everybody else has skin in the game. So they feel like, oh gosh, if Lucy did it, and Ben Johns did it, maybe we have to do it too, so.
It's kind of, I think I think it's cool because we all have these different personalities, right? So there are some that are probably not as chatty or, more quiet and so it's all these different personalities that you get to see and learn and things like that. But yeah, wherever there's fun, I usually like to go.
Well, and one other last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up because I've got to go too. But I was talking to a friend of mine in the Raleigh-Durham area just a couple of days ago, and I said, hey, if you're not getting to play that much, I said, you ought to join this pickleball forum. It started out with BBC people, Bainbridge Cup people who were going to go play, and we couldn't play. So how are we going to pass the time, and how are we going to stay connected? So I told him told this person about all of these people who've come on. She says, Susan, those names mean nothing to me. And I said, you know what? It's funny that you say that, because 12 weeks ago, those names meant nothing to me either, because I never followed pros, because I just wanted to go out and play. But I said, since I've been on this, now it makes me go to their YouTube pages and look them up and see the plays, and I'm getting to learn a lot more about them. And then I finally got my hair cut and colored yesterday, no more gray. And my colorist, she said, oh, Susan, she said, you had Simone on? And she said, I just played with her in Hilton Head last month, and she had a camp that still went on and so forth. And so she was very excited, because when I told her that Arena was here and all of these other people, and she's like, wow, that's really cool. I said, just get on, you can hop on, and maybe you'll come to Europe one of these years. And I was so bummed last week to find out that Bainbridge won't be next year, but 2022, but that just gives us more to look forward to.
Okay. See, I didn't even know that fact. So you're on the cutting edge, Susan.
Well, no, actually, Ron announced that last week that he and can't think of the guy, the head of the IFP.
Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy. He and Pat Murphy were down in Florida to get certified for international something or other. with Rob Elliott, and they had decided then, or I guess Karen, you could probably say more, that they weren't sure about what's going to happen next year. So better to put it off to 2022 instead of having to plan and put all those many hours of work into it. So
yeah, Pickleball England actually took the decision.
Pickleball England, okay.
We weren't sure that international travel will be up to the same level it was before the pandemic, and we really wanted to host a successful Bainbridge Cup. We had over 700, registered players. So we decided that we would like to do it in 2022 rather than 2021.
Yeah. It's probably easier and not so stressful for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were still planning to come over this summer, and I told, as little as just 2 weeks ago, Ron said, well, we can still go play. And I said, but we have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and I don't have the kind of money to spend for a hotel for 2 weeks, and then stick around. And none of the places we wanted to go were open anyway. So we finally decided that's it. We can't go this.
Right. Yeah.
Roberto's coming next year for over to the States for his 40th. No, your 40th or 30th?
Oh, I wish I was 30. Yeah, 40 or
40th birthday. Okay.
Nice.
So he's already been given all kinds of places to come and stay for free. So everybody's clamoring over Roberto now.
He's a hot item.
Oh, wow. I need 6 months instead of 1.
That's right.
Nice.
So Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. I am going to close the call up now, but you've been very generous with your time, lots of great information that you've shared with us, and actually it is fascinating to hear about the history of pickleball. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks Jennifer. Fran to join as well. 2 Pickleball Hall of Famers on one call. That's pretty amazing. So
it's your lucky day.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Jennifer.
Thank you very much.